Thank you so much for watching, and honestly, you know, the fact that you went through all of that, the entire of the podcast, you listened to it, I thought it was absolutely amazing, and make sure to subscribe. Yeah, that's me. You know, I bet you're wondering, was he always that most attractive, amazing, charming guy that we've always seen in these videos? Well, I used to not always look and be like this, and just like everyone, I've got my own story. And if you want to know my story, we got to go back to the beginning of this video. Hi, in this video we're going to be talking about how to make someone fall in love with you. And I'm sure there are millions of videos out like this in the internet, and I'm sure I've done something similar. But I want to talk about this in a different sense, because this is going to be a very special video, and I seem to say that in every video, but this one is especially going to be a special video, because I'm pretty sure that some of you guys don't realize I have a podcast. And in my last podcast, I talked just about this. It was about how to become unforgettable. So in addition to the content that I'm going to give you, I'm also going to put in the podcast in this video. There is going to be a huge fucking slab with maybe a pretty ocean repeating image or some forest or something like that playing in the background of the podcast. But in this video, we're going to be talking about that. How to make someone fall in love with you. And when you listen to the podcast, it's all going to become very, very clear. You know, and I really want you to listen to this. If you don't, great, don't listen to it. Do your own life. You're the master of your own universe. But when you listen to this, you'll really understand some real deep understandings, because experiences are what bind people together. You know, you're experiencing this, you're experiencing me, suddenly you're like, hey, this is a really cool person. I want to get to know him more. It's really exciting, right? But if experience what bind you together with someone, well, really, you know, if you want to make someone fall in love with you, it's about giving them the space for them to do so. You know, the space being that it's really it's their responsibility, it's their ideas, it's who they are. You know, you can't necessarily force love, and if you have a pen and paper, I want you to write that down, that you can't force love. But you can give someone the space that if it is meant to happen, it is going to happen. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here in the podcast, that really it's about creating experiences. To become unforgettable in someone's minds, it's about creating experience. To have someone really like you, it's about creating an experience, because it's these experiences that we share with someone, these are the experiences that will bind you together with that person. And when you're bound together with that person, if you are destined to fall in love, if you are a match, which, you know, when I come to these videos and when you watch these videos, the big assumption here is that you know, you are interested in people that are interested in you and things like that. So that's a very important thing to share. But really it comes down to allowing that person the space, and through these bound experiences, through creating experiences with the other person, you allow the connection to take place. You allow it to, because you're giving it the juice, the fucking vitality, the essence that relationships are made of. And that is experiences. So without further ado, I want you to listen to this podcast. This is an amazing podcast. It is the rest of this video. It is fucking fantastic. It's one of my favorite podcasts, one of the best ones I've put out there. And so when you listen to this, you know, and you can watch the repeating ocean image if you like, and if not, then that's okay too. But listen to it with an open heart. Not just with your ears, but with your heart, with your soul. I want you to feel the energy that I'm expressing. Because when you feel it, you understand it, you'll know it. And when you know it at a deep experiential level, it won't be something that you have to remember. Because honestly, you know, the stuff that we give and we share and all that kind of stuff, if you have to remember it, it's going to be a bit of a problem. It's going to be one of those things that you have to try and, you know, all right, cool, what did Harvey say? You know, insert plug B into question A and do certain maneuver this way. Oh, it's very good. Oh, very good. You know, it's not necessarily very humane to be running a formula. So we don't want to run a formula. We want to learn this, experience it, and almost forget it, because then the experiences are what will share this with that person. It'll come out, it'll manifest through you in an idea, and when you listen to the podcast, you'll know how it works. It's really amazing. So thank you so much in advance. because I'm not going to do a little thing at the end. If you did like this podcast, make sure to subscribe. If you did like this video, make sure to subscribe. And, I'll tune in next Wednesday for something more awesome. Hi, and welcome to the latest and greatest of the Honest Modern Dating podcast. Before we get into the podcast, I do want a bit of an announcement. So this podcast is going to be about how to create an experience for someone, or how to be really unforgettable. And we kind of spoke about that last week, but I really want to unveil a little bit more that'll really give you some really cool ammunition in your sexy love gun of life. But before we say that, I do want to give an announcement, and I wanted to announce this on live and all this kind of stuff, but I really feel like the podcast is a good thing. And if I can be bothered, I'll actually cut this out and make a little bit of an Instagram clip. Basically, the announcement is this. It's getting too painful for me to read a lot of comments that people are commenting. Very simply put. I see people and it's almost like sometimes I can see where the thought progress that people are doing. And I can see it's like they're holding a gun and they're saying someone loved me and they're about to shoot themselves through. That's what it feels like. So more and more now, I'll be responding less and looking less. I will be still looking, but I'll be responding less to people's messages on just comments and stuff like that, just because it's really hard for me to do so. But what's easy for me is to actually fucking make a giant shift. So if you do want to talk to me, if you do want insight and to have that change, I really recommend that you do set up a call to work with me. So that's www.loveonmyterms.com. That's why I'm saying it's so painful for me, because I know how to really solve the problems and get people out of these things. And the best method for me to do that is via a coaching call, is to work with me. So if you're in that position, please apply for it now, www.loveonmyterms.com. Outside of that, it's the stuff that I teach, to be honest. Like when we work together, I put some voodoo magic, and I also teach you simultaneously how to do the voodoo magic yourself. But in that mode, it's like it becomes so intolerable for you to be in those bad relationships. Like some people, they complain about bad relationships, like, oh, it's so bad, but then they break up with that someone and they end up in the same fucking relationship with the same problems, just with someone else. Well, sometimes it's because you haven't actually taken the time to look at it or to learn the experiences or things like that. And so I find through my coaching process, those kinds of relationships become so fucking intolerable that's like you just can't be around them. And that's what I've slowly discovered, that it's like it's becoming so painful for me to be around the problems of the world, that it's like it doesn't help me to help other people if I'm hurting myself. So I really, I'm all about looking after yourself. So I'm really looking after myself by spending less time looking at comments and things like that. But it really will help me, because now I have more energy to work with you one-on-one to actually get the fucking results and to create more content like this, which I know you guys love. So that's really good. Yeah, and that's just me looking after myself. That's my version of self-love. And I never thought I'd actually say that, to be honest. I always thought in my head I was going to be, I'll respond to everything ever. But I'm getting a lot of people now. And it's really hard for me to get back to everyone. 2, it's like the platform doesn't help me, because I know to really help you, I need to be on a fucking call with you. Like, to get it like this, like a fucking moment, like 20 seconds, 20 minutes, like maximum is the time. And the rest of the time is just us connecting. It's so beautiful, the calls. I fucking love them. And, some people tell me their problems, and it's just like, sometimes, you can't hear the emotion in my voice. And so for me to really help, we need to make that jump. So if you're ready for that jump, go to www.loveonmyterms.com. You can apply, you can book a call there. It's free. Everyone gets one free call, because I'm a drug dealer of love. You get one free call. I cannot fucking stress that. You get one free call. The first hit is free. So fucking get on that shit. Anyway, welcome to the latest and greatest of the Honest Modern Dating podcast. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about how to really be unforgettable. And in brackets in your head, because this is an audio experience, you can put in how to create an experience for somebody. And I did kind of talk about this last time, but I want to talk about this a little bit more because this one, I understand and I feel that you're at the place where I can share some strategies. And normally I'm against sharing strategies unless you are in the place. But if you are a fan of my stuff and if you have been following my stuff, then you should understand by now that it's your feelings with yourself that are the most important things. You know, if you're feeling lack, then these strategies that I give you are just going to create more lack. Simply put, you can use, if I give you a shovel, you can dig a hole or you can beat someone on the head with it. If I give you a car, you can drive to somewhere amazing or you can smash it into a tree. The choice is yours. So I'm going to go out on a limb and give you some strategies, some ideas, and in addition to mindsets that are really going to help you create an experience for someone. Because dating is about, at the very core level, dating is about creating an experience for someone. Because there are two, I find, through my experience as being the internationally renowned dating coach, that there are two kinds of people when it comes to dating. Those people who are very conscious of the other person, not self-conscious, but conscious of the other person, that are trying to convey something, that almost use the date like an art form. And I think that's beautiful. Like, look, you might try to convey something, or art to me is a translation of consciousness. That's what it is. It's a translation of consciousness. So you look at an artwork and you almost, if your mind is open enough, you can almost feel and connect to the artist in the way, because that's the way that they thought. It's unique for them in that moment and all that kind of stuff. So you're using it as an art form, or you're someone who kind of uses it like a ride because you understand that other people are creating the artwork. So you're either the artiste or the art viewer. And so to create an amazing experience for someone, I'm going to suggest that you start looking at it like it's an art form, that you are an artist creating an experience for someone. Now, obviously, there are different kinds of art. You know, you can create music for you. You can create music for other people, for example. You can create an artwork for you. You can create an artwork for someone else. But it's a fucking date. You know, there's two people there. So maybe you can create an experience for someone else, for yourself. You can create it for someone else, just for the sake of someone else. But I like to think that when it comes to dating, it's like a marriage of the two. You know, you do it for someone else, but you also do it because it feels good for you. Because if it doesn't feel good for you, then why the fuck are you doing it? You know, some people like to think love is pain. Some people like to think love is agony. Some people like to think dating is like going to a job interview. I think that if you're in that position, you should stop and take a good, hard, long look at what you're doing and apply for a call with me. So what happens is when you're creating an experience and you want it to be unforgettable, what you want to do is ask yourself a question. And this is what I find. I do this with all things. You know, you're going to find that the stuff that I give you doesn't just apply to dating. It applies to the rest of your life. So what's the question you want to ask yourself? The question you want to ask yourself is, how do you want them to feel? Isn't that interesting? You start with them. Isn't that a giving mindset? How do you want them to feel? Do you want them... And truth be told, the reason why I say this is because we're thinking it anyway. You know, when you get hurt, sometimes people are like, you know, I just want them to feel how I felt. They hurt me, I'm going to hurt them. So when we're dealing with other people, we are always creating an experience. So the thing is, how do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel connected? Do you want them to feel loved up? Do you want them to feel turned on? Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel fun? Do you want them to feel involved? Do you want them to feel included? Do you not want them to feel included? Negative emotions, just as a thing, right? Negative emotions have just a common place in dating and relationships just as much as positive emotions. And if you haven't already checked it out, try out my 7-day self-love course, which is all about accepting both the positive and the negative to find self-love and confidence. That's only $7. Go to 7dayselflovecourse.com to check that out. But here's the thing, right? If you discount those negative emotions, you discount the fucking art form. It's like you're saying, I'm going to paint, but you only are going to use the color yellow. Sure, you can do it. I think it's, what is it, Monet? Someone who like does like those red. It's like red, and it's just red on canvas. And then there was blue on canvas. But you can do that. And in fact, if you like, you can limit yourself. And you what I call what's the phrase? You've got a creative limitation. Creative limitations are where you intentionally limit yourself to boost your creativity. If you're only going to paint with the color blue, then you're going to have to deal with other things like tone, like depth of blue. Do you wash out the blue a little bit to create shading, for example? It's all in that. But I like to assume, just for the start, we're going to assume that there are some negative emotions that are good. So when you're coming from the place of how do I want them to feel, let's go back to that. When you come from the place of how do I want them to feel, that is the key focus. Now, I'm a big fan of inspired action. I don't think we should do anything that doesn't feel inspired. And one of the simple ways to inspire yourself to be inspired is to take time to feel that. So what does it feel like to feel connected? If you want them to feel connected to you, what does it feel like to feel connected? What does it feel like to feel loved? What do those feel like? Where in your body do you feel them? Once you feel that, you'll then allow your mind if you feel that without resistance, or without like, oh my God, but every time I feel connected, I get hurt. Like, no. Like, we're just feeling about what's the other person, what experience do we want to create? So then you take time to feel that, and then you'll get some inspiration because you've once felt connected. You've once felt turned on. You've once felt inspired. You've once felt all of these things. So when you give your mind a chance to wasp over the emotion that you want them to feel, your mind will often remember experiences that you had experienced in order to feel that. So for me, for example, feeling connected with someone is having someone really listen to me, really enjoying their company, and maybe going on an adventure to one or two places. That to me is what I would, like at the very basis of it, that's to me is a connection date. So then I would ask, and I would invite you to ask, if you want them to feel connected, right? Let's just use that. Connected, what makes you feel connected? And then you start to get ideas. You're like, oh, but, maybe going to a new place, but we can still talk where it's quiet and it's exclusive. That's why I think, honestly, going to a club for the first date you've ever had is one of the worst ideas you can do. Because you're not giving yourself a chance to physically connect. In fact, there are more chances for other people to interrupt and then connect with your partner. Is that a good idea? Depends on what you want them to experience. If the first date if what you want them to experience is a fucking party, then great. But that's the key. You get to decide. Isn't that exciting? I think that's the most exciting thing, that you always get to decide. And it starts with how you feel. So once we get the ideas come together, I'm going to give you some salt, or some spices to add to the soup of the date that you're doing. So the first thing I want you to do is to understand the concept of anticipation. Now, anticipation means that a part of our mind is conscious about what's going to happen. It's the same thing when someone says, I've got a surprise for you, and then they don't tell you what it is, and you spend all that time trying to figure it out. Even if it's you consciously trying to push aside the fact that you're trying to figure it out, like you're like, no, I'm not going to figure it out now. That is still anticipation. So one of the most important things you can do if you have a date idea or you have a date is to let them know. To add some anticipation. I've got a really good idea. You're going to find out. Isn't that exciting? Now, here's the thing with that. If you're already dating someone that's really good, you can do that. It depends on how comfortable they are with you. If it's a first date and they're just someone who's a panicky person, and you say, I've got something planned for us, they might not be able to handle that. It might be too much. It might shoot them out through nervousness. But if someone who's quite grounded, especially if you're in a relationship that's quite grounded, then you can add the anticipation and that will be okay. The second thing, I guess it's the build-up, is letting them know or building it up. So you can add this in the anticipation, or you can add this in, this is what we call a pre-frame. So a pre-frame is where you add emotions to it before it happens. So like anticipation is you're letting them know without letting them know. The build-up is that you're kind of sharing little bits about it, like, oh, this place is really cool, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be fun. Again, this kind of stuff it's like an avalanche. When you start it early at the top of the mountain, by the time you get to it, it'll be a huge avalanche. That's really the idea here. When you're creating experience, the experience starts the moment you decide. The moment you decide that you want to go on a date with someone, that's the start of the experience. That's the most exciting thing. So with the build-up, you're adding things. Now again, with the person who is grounded, or if the relationship is grounded, if they're more grounded, you can talk about stuff that you're going to do together. If it is less grounded, like it's a first date or it's something like that, you can talk about the place itself. That's the key here. When you make it about you guys and it's not grounded enough, then it becomes a bit unstable depending on the person. Again, it's always down to who you are, where they're at, and as a result, there are no hard and fast rules. I'm just giving you the discoveries that I have found as your astronaut of love. Now, so with that, right, when it comes to talking about the place, and you can do this regardless of how grounded the person is. You're like, this is really cool, it's a rooftop, it's got this, it's got this. I'm excited. I think you'll like it too. Don't make it too big. Depends on the person. Depends on how excited they are. You'll be able to tell. You have what we call emotional intelligence. I'm just assuming that from you. Now, there is another thing you can do, which is, how do I say this? This is like a nuanced point. Now, a nuanced point is something that I shouldn't necessarily share online because some people will take it the wrong way. But I'm going to do it anyway. So this one is what we call the letdown. Now, the letdown is where you have a momentary lapse. Now, don't completely let the person down, but have a momentary lapse in the idea of what you're doing. So one really good example of this is, and I often take friends or people here, in Melbourne there is a bar that I really like. In fact, it's really central, it's really like accidentally intimate, it's really, really nice, the staff are really great there, the cocktails are great there, the food is great there, and it's a really beautiful place that you can either go there with a group of friends or you can go there with one-on-one with someone and really connect with them. In fact, I'm sharing this now. This is the build-up. This is the anticipation. I bet you're going, oh my God, I want to go with this place with Harvey. I think it'll be really cool. Now, what is so great about this place is they have a letdown inbuilt into it. Now, you don't have to always do the letdown, but what's interesting here is the entrance, even though it's so central, the entrance is in a alleyway, and it's full of dumpsters, and it's just horrible, and it looks like you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? So we have what is called the letdown, where the person will see, oh my God, it's a fucking, what is this? Why are they taking me to an alleyway? And then they turn their head slightly, and there is a beautiful door which goes up some amazing stairs. And the letdown is a bit of like, what are we doing? Where are we going? It's a bit of confusion. It's a bit of incongruence that what you described that you guys were doing as the experience that you're creating for someone did not fully match the initial impression, which then leads perfectly to the next one, which is called the big move. Now, the big move is always relative to the emotion that happened before that. If you really want to make an impression with someone, do something bold, do something big. That's why I like the idea of the letdown. The letdown is a great way to make the next thing that you do seem bigger without it actually being so big. So you go to this alleyway, for an example, and it's like, whoa, what is this? This is terrible. But then you open up the door, and it's this beautiful bar, and it's like, oh, that suddenly is the big move. Without the letdown beforehand, right? Without the letdown beforehand, it won't seem so big and exciting in that person's eyes. Now, it might be, and so here's the thing, with the big move, the bold move, the whatever move it is, you can, how do I say this? It's like, how do I put this into words? It's the first time I'm sharing this in such a large open language place. Where with the big move, you can do a bold move where it's like you see someone and you find them and you hunt them down and all this kind of stuff. But in today's modern society, that tends to be a little bit confronting to some people. This is why I was talking in terms of groundedness or not, because some people are going to be very grounded and some people are just not. Someone who's more grounded, they can handle a bold move that is like a big gesture like flowers or something or whatever. And some people, if they're not so grounded, if they're emotionally, they're privy to the whims and willies of the universe, that the bold move is just going to shoot them out. You got a little thing in your hand and you squeeze it so tight and it just shoots out of your hand because the pressure that you've held is so tight it throws them out. This is what I call just throwing them out of whatever you're doing. It shoots them out. It's too much. So this is why I find, now again, this is all stuff that you will discover naturally, or you'll discover quicker if we work together, that the letdown and the big move are like a perfect 1-2 punch. It's like, it's the thing that you've built up and then you've dropped it and then it's amazing. One example I have was, I like to call it like an inconspicuous gift, where you give someone a gift just because you really care about them and you want them to really like you and all that kind of stuff. You're trying to create an experience for them, but you make it inconspicuous. So it's not like it's a gesture. Again, if you're trying to make it a bit more it's all what we communicate, right? It's, some people might say, but you're not being direct and you're hiding behind some certain things. I like to think that you are being direct. You're just choosing different modes to express it. You're an artist. You get to express it in different ways, right? So I remember this one time, for example, I was in Toronto. This is when I was 2015 on a tour. And we really wanted the security guards of the building to fucking like us. Or at least I did, because I was like, we got to get these guys on our side. Because otherwise, if things go wrong, if there's building security, you want them to be your friends. I think in my head, that's like the general rule. So, was it Tim Hortons? Canada has more Tim Hortons than fucking grocery stores? Fuck Tim Hortons, thank you very much. I love it. This is just my rant. I was looking for a grocery store, and along the way, I found 10 Tim Hortons. So I'm like, if you're from Canada and you like Tim Hortons, good. Enjoy it. But, so what I did was I bought some donuts, or a donut. Actually, I think I bought 2 donuts and I ate one and I was with a friend. And as I walked through security, I said, hey, do you want this donut? My mate here, he's too health conscious. I had never offered my friend the donut. And he was like, oh, smart fucking move. But here's the thing, right? You can do it. It's a great stepping stone if you think the relationship isn't solid yet, that you can do these kinds of things. That it allows you to feel more comfortable and allows the person to also feel more comfortable. Again, it's a bit of a letdown and it's the big move. The big move is, I'm giving you a gift. The letdown is, it's a donut and I have this backstory that makes it a little bit less significant. So it's that up and down that creates an experience. It's what we call contrast. Now, for example, look at an outfit. What makes an outfit interesting? Fucking contrast. You got the black and the white. You have textures, you have not. It makes it very visually appealing. That's the way our brain works. It works via contrast. And it's an interesting thing. I like to look at the same thing with fashion and what's cool. For example, tight, high jeans and all that kind of stuff. And then I think in the 90s we had those low jeans because it was contrast, right? Now we have those thick eyebrows, those big slug eyebrows, which are pretty cool, in my opinion. I like them. But we also have contrast. In fact, I think it's the movie Blockers that does it really well. The movie Blockers with John Cena and the other ones. There's one, it's a movie about 3 girls who they're trying to lose their virginity on their prom night, and it's the parents who are trying to block them. And it's actually a really good and modern movie. Because one of the girls, it's so funny. I can't believe I'm sharing the story. I watched this movie, and there's one of the girls who's she's trying to figure out if she's a lesbian or not. And in the end, she tells her friends that she's a lesbian. Spoilers! Spoilers alert! But she tells her friends that she's a lesbian, and one of the friends just goes, "I love you." I fucking cried so much in that point. I was like, I'm accepted. I don't know why. It just really hit me home. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that one of the main girls has really thick eyebrows, and her mother has tiny, tiny, thin eyebrows. It's contrast. What is cool and trends are all about either what's evolutionary or what is revolutionary. What is contrasting or what is adding. So that's the interesting thing, that contrast creates, it's interesting for our mind. It's interesting. Look at this. I have my voice where I'm like, hello, how are you? But I also have my voice where I'm like, hey, it's exciting. That's contrast in its fucking finest. So that's why we have the letdown and the big move that makes it inconspicuous, and it adds and it blends together in an interesting and unique way. But first and foremost, before all of this, you have to ask yourself, what experience do I want to create? And before that, here's the little caveat. Before that, you have to ask yourself, are you in a good feeling state? Because if you're in pain, you'll create more pain. But if you're in love, you'll create more love. And that's the key point here, is that without all of this stuff, to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger, none of this will work unless you do. And sure, he meant it in the phrase that it's like, you got to work hard. But I'm saying none of this will work unless you do. If you're in the right emotional state, you'll probably do all of this stuff automatically. Because you'll be in the zone, you'll be in the flow, you'll be in a God mode, you'll be in who you are. You'll be in lack of resistance, you'll be in a flow. And it'll be a beautiful state. You'll be in a beautiful place. You'll make a beautiful experience, and then you'll make a beautiful couple. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you did like this podcast and you are listening to this on a platform where you can leave a review, please leave a review. If you hated this podcast, please send this to all your enemies. And if you did like it, make sure to email me, harvey@gethimhooked.com. I will read the emails, and if I feel like it, I'll reply, depending. Remember how I said at the start where I may or may not reply or get back to people now, just because I really need to conserve the energy and, fight the big fight, so to speak, and still really get to people and all this kind of stuff. So I will do my best now. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. This stuff like this, where I share strategies, is stuff that I don't generally like to share, because I really feel about that it's your self-love first. But I think you're at a place where I can really share this now. And by you, I mean you specifically, but also the collective people that I'm speaking to. That, it's the same thing. What you assume about the other person is often what you create. We project all over people. If you think they're busy, you'll make them more busy. They're like, oh, they're so busy, they can't see me. But that you make them more busy by assuming they're busy. So might as well just not think they're busy. So I'm assuming that you know all this stuff already, that I'm just sharing good ideas that you know. I don't ever coach someone from the place that I think they're broken. I think that if you get a coach who thinks they're broken, they're going to break you just to fix you. So might as well just deal with someone who thinks you're great, sees your potential. Wouldn't that be good? And I fucking see it. So please, if you do want to work with me one-on-one, go to www.loveonmyterms.com. You can apply for a free call there. It'll send you to a booking link where you can book the call in your time zone. If you want more videos, articles, all that kind of stuff, go to www.gethimhooked.com. That is my main website. From there, you can also apply for a call as well. I think the site is sexy. I built it myself. In case you don't know, I do everything. I have outsourced and I have, teams and all that kind of stuff. But for the fun, for the front of house things, like the design and all that kind of stuff, and I built it all. I love that kind of stuff. And in the future, I won't, because it'll be the same thing. Where I'm saying that I'm like, strung out from all the comments and stuff like that, and I just can't get to everyone now, or as much as I would like, which is a better way of saying it. In the future, I'll probably outsource the design, but in the meantime, I love it. I've built like my little online university. I did it myself. I don't know how to program. Someone asked me, how did you do that? I said, don't ask me. I don't know. I just did it. I think, when we just as a quick side, just before we go, I'm really all about the flow. So in life, there is a flow. And when you're in the right state, you won't question it. I say this over and over and over again. When it came to building my website or rebuilding it, I think I locked myself away at my desk for like 2 days straight. I barely slept and I did it. And that's how you know you're in the right place. You're in the right place where you don't fucking question it. You're in the right place when you're in the flow and you're just doing it. Same thing. If you're not in the right, if you fucking question working with me, don't do it. I don't want to work with you. You're not in the flow. We got to be in the flow to do it. More flow attracts more flow. If you're in a place where you're like, yeah, this is good, and you don't even question and you apply, that's how I know. Trust me, I can tell. I've set up my, and this is insights as well. I've set up the way that you apply for a call with specific steps that have to be taken that I can see. There are like various gates that people go through that I see everyone's gates, so to speak. That if you apply, I've seen at what process have you got this. I get emails. I've set it all up. So it's like this. And once someone has gone through all the gates, so to speak, and I can see the time frame in which they go through the gates, time doesn't really matter. It's more like have they gone through, because time people go at their own pace. But have they gone through these specific steps? And once they go through that specific steps, I know I'm ready to commit you my time. If you haven't gone through those steps, or you've gone through those steps and it's like I read your stuff and I'm just like, nah, this is just not working. I will politely cancel the call. I will just say, we're not ready. You know, I think that's really important. Don't drop your standards, drop the shit you tolerate. Thank you so much for listening. We'll tune in next week, next Saturday, for more of the latest and greatest of the honest modern dating podcast with me, your boy, motherfucking Harvey Hook. Let's talk to you soon. Bye-bye.